task we're tackling here is tuner replacement. And a lot of these import guitars come with these sort of like green pea soup looking things, sharp edges, really not very good tuners. So I'm going to swap those out with a set of locking tuners. They do take the same footprint of pretty much any Kluson style tuner that looks like this shape. So if it looks like that, it generally is going to fit in there with the existing holes. They're really simple to switch these out. I mean, you know, first off, just unscrew them, right? There's just 2 screws and they'll pull right out. But after you do that, you've got to make a couple of decisions. First off is going to be whether or not to replace the bushings. So the bushings here are the smaller style like that you would see on a Gibson. Some will come with like the bigger ones. But if you pull these out, chances are your new ones won't fit the hole quite right. And so you'll have to use something to enlarge that hole with a reamer or otherwise. The other problem that I've run into when doing that is a lot of times you'll ream it out to the right size, and when you go to put the strings on, something's just amiss, and then these tend to like pull out a little bit. I think because these are the right design and size, I'm probably just going to reuse these and save myself a little bit of a headache. But just as a tip, if you do run into an issue where you're replacing these, you know, all you'll do is you'll go in the back with something and just pop it with a hammer and it'll pop right out. It's like you can do that with like a screwdriver extension, screwdriver end, Phillips screwdriver, punch, whatever you've got that fits in that hole and gets on the metal. They're not in there very hard, very securely, so you just pop them right out. Your new ones, though, you'll have to press in, and so, you know, you try by hand. Usually you'll need to use like a rubber mallet to pop it in the rest of the way. Obviously support the headstock. You don't want to be holding it over here and hitting it right here. You're going to break your headstock. You're going to want to, you know, have some support. I like to put it on my knee, honestly, and just, you know, hit it against my knee. It's not like I'm going to, you know, hurt myself too bad doing that. But if you do run into that issue where you get your bushings replaced and you go to tighten it down and tune it up, and you notice these are lifting, what you can do and what you might want to do as you put these in the first place, just put a little bit of wood glue on the inside of this bushing, not what is going to be touching the post, but on the portion that's touching the wood. And then, you know, when you hammer those in there, that wood glue will, you know, hold that securely. And then, you know, let that dry before you actually go to put strings on the tuner, but that'll keep it from rising up. All right, so that's all there is to that piece. The other thing that you'll have to kind of make some decisions about are whether or not to fix the tuner alignment. A lot of these will show up, and rather than being perfectly parallel, like some will be like this, some will be like this. That's a really easy fix. This one looked pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to do that yet. I'm going to look at that now, and if I need to fix it, I'm going to show you how. So I'm kind of bummed, but also pleased. These turned out to be pretty correctly placed, actually. I mean, they're not totally off. And, you know, when you're putting these in, you do have some wiggle room, right? Like when you start the screw, what I would generally do is start your screws, don't screw them in all the way, maybe put them in halfway, and then kind of wiggle this until you get it to where it's parallel to the tuner next to it, and then tighten one side down and then the other while you're holding it. While you're, you know, you'll need to kind of hold it in place to make sure it doesn't kind of torque off to where it was. Like if I just literally went with the same screw holes without doing any adjustment. I mean, this one turns out fine, but you know, you might be like this, right? But you might have enough room to kind of push it into the correct placement as you tighten it down. So this one, I got lucky. It's one of the few things I seem to have gotten lucky out on this one. But if this is not right, let me show you what you do. So this is very simple. Grab yourself some round toothpicks. Then you can use wood glue, super glue, whatever you have handy. Put a little drop right here on the tip, just the tip. You don't want it to be all over this thing, get all over your board. It will push itself out as you go. So you put a little drop of adhesive there, push it down in there, twist it a little bit so it's in place. Let it dry. When it dries, break it. Okay, and it'll leave it down in there, and you'll have, you'll have that little piece of wood. That's really sufficient. If it's going to be hidden underneath the other tuner, you're just repositioning. You're going to have plenty of bite like that. Doesn't matter that it's a little bit rough at the surface. What you can do is come back in with some type of a blade after you've broken that off and just kind of clean that up. Or if this is going to be visible, what I would do, like if I had a different style of tuner I were using and like there's a hole over here, or my tuner hole's going to be here and that's going to be visible, I wouldn't have broken it. I would have left it and brought in with a blade and just kind of carefully cut it off. So it's kind of a, how long does it take versus how clean it is. The cleanest method takes the longest, and that's to, carefully cut it off. Quickest method, what I just did, put the glue in there, poke it in the hole, and then rake it over. I can go ahead and detach that, but as you can imagine, I don't want to get that stuck in the hole. So I'm not going to fully demonstrate it. But, you do that, you just break it off, and you're good to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get the other one in here, and then I'm going to be all set on these. These are actually a really nice locking tuner product. There are several, companies that are making a locking tuner that are inexpensive, like Chinese, like Geiker. These are canes, and I like these because the buttons are actually kind of a translucent material, more like actual Clusons. If you use like the Geiker or a lot of these, they have their own kind of tint, and it's an opaque color. You can get like a white or kind of a gray, but they're not sort of translucent like these. Ideally, obviously, if you were able to get or wanted to spend the money to get the Clusons or a Kluson locking tuner or a Gato or something like that, have at it. But this is these have worked pretty well for me. I like these. They feel pretty smooth. They have a nice locking mechanism, and these are like $25, and they match up really well to the the existing holes. So I really can't complain. All right, that's all that you need to know about this one.